Hi, folks. Today we have Teague and Chanwit joining us. My name's Lee. We do all happen to be from Weaveworks. This is the January 13th, gotta fix that, Ignite Dev Call, where we go over anything related to the Ignite project and make sure that folks have the resources they need to contribute and grow and help out. And also, we just get to know each other here. So, yeah, thanks everyone for joining. Last week we didn't have a recording. Nobody else joined our call, but I guess we could have recorded this and it would have been valuable. We were debugging a multi-control plane node behavior with the WKS Firekube Quick Start repo, where we were having an issue with the multi-node cluster bootstrapping after workers join. Really peculiar bug. Chanwit's working on it. And then today for our agenda, we have a follow-up of that debugging session just to cover what we learned, if anything, and if there's still outstanding problems there. And then Teague has joined us to discuss his read-only mount security improvements that are currently open in a PR. And then we might do a little bit of code walkthrough there. So yeah, I guess let's get moving to the first point, which is just about the debugging session for the control plane. Chanwit, are you able to comment a little bit on this?
Yes. Last time the cluster behavior is a bit strange. It was like when this is a background for also for Teague. We got a word back that during the formation of the cluster using WKS Firekube Quick Start, we form a Firekube cluster, and the command is WKS. The tool is WKS Kado, and when we're using that to form a cluster with Ignite VMs was working fine when we have only one master and one worker node. But when we're trying to form the multi-master cluster, which is in our case 3 master nodes and 1 worker, and during the joining process, when we already have 3 master and the worker node starting to join, we've got some behavior like the Flux and the WKS controller part trying to move from the first master to another, and then is causing the failure, and the API server of the Kubernetes of the control plane is gone, and in some case that we found last week, some the API server moved to another node, like to node 2, but in my case is worse than that the API server is like gone forever and couldn't be restarting itself to another node, and the cluster totally collapsed. And with help from Brian today. He said something like is related to taint, a taint. There's a taint defined in the I mean in also in master, and then we force the WKS controller to run on the first master node because it's acting as a seed node of the cluster API. I mean, per the cluster API spec, when we got the first node called seed node, everything must be running there to bootstrap the whole cluster. And in many situations, I mean, with the normal VMs and also of the container environment input loads, for example, the WKS controller didn't move to another node, so the cluster is stable and starting to work. But in the case of Ignite, we don't know yet why that path get scheduled onto another node, but we suspect some taint by that. That's what Brian said today. So that's basically what's going on with this problem.
So we're still looking for the discrepancy.
The root, yeah.
The environment between Docker and Ignite that is causing this bug.
Oh yeah, and one thing is that when I rerun the setup shell script, that one you might be familiar with, Lee.
Yeah,
the one you refactored a lot. When we rerun that script twice without destroying the VM, like we keep the VM running from the first run, then we rerun that script again without destroying the VM. It's just working fine. We can form the cluster.
so that actually brings the cluster up.
Right. With the normally behavior, just like what we did in Docker backend. So basically, it's it's a bit more weird. This is a bit more strange to me. I feel like the WKS controller, or I don't know, some setup script, or the kube admin itself. I don't know which one. Maybe transform the state of the VM to be something that ready to run the control plane. And but the problem is that I was trying to mimic the, I mean, I copy and paste the CentOS 7 from Bootloads to prepare the VM image and build it for Ignite and trying to start the cluster, but it still behave like this. I mean, for the first one, we can't form the multi-master repeatedly, but for the second one, it's just running fine. So it's very strange.
That
So I
is
don't.
a bit weird to me. I don't know how even the PKI would work, because what's happening that's taking that first node down, and I've noted this here, is that it's having a Kubernetes reset run,
Right.
right?
That's
So
that's
yeah.
that's the cause of the failure. I mean that is not a cause. That's the result of the failure that
Yes. Uh-huh.
we when we get into the VM and we can't see anything because
Yes. So what I'm saying is that since this is our Kubernetes reset, the PKI on that node is gone. So I'm a little bewildered, and also like there's no central load balancer, so I don't know how it would do the copy cert operation from the other node unless we have some smart code in WKS controller that like knows like, oh, this node is alive, let me get the certs from it. Like maybe the cluster looks like it's working, but it's actually like has authorization issues. Like, did you try
it,
to read
it
logs on from any of the pods on the worker node when you did the setup sh?
yeah, I try to read the whole log from everything from the also from the content directly in the set of containers running directly.
Yeah, what I'm
And
getting at is the like after you did the double setup sh to get the cluster up, were you able to use that control plane node to read logs through kubectl of some pod that was on another node? Because that requires like proper cert verification.
that one I didn't try it yet.
Like that will be broken if the certs don't match, basically. So
But actually, when we rerun the script, it's been, I mean, the whole I mean every node of the cluster being reset by
I see.
reset. So it's it's like starting over.
Okay.
So this
Oh,
is what
everything gets reset. Okay. Yeah, I
right,
see.
right.
WKS controller runs the reset on everything. Weird. That's
But
so weird that that works.
Soviet. What so the what I could be thinking of at the moment is there there might be something before kube admin
I
kubernetes.
I have an idea.
Hmm?
What if the reason that the Docker version works is because we have a bug in the reset logic of WKS controller where it is resetting the network stack, which is reconfiguring the kernel. So the kernel's network stack becomes not ready, right?
Real this
But
really
you hear what I'm saying, right? Because if it was the containers, it might be something that's not isolatable via network namespace. So it might be reconfiguring the host kernel in a way where all of the containers go down at the same time, which means nothing can know that something should be rescheduled. It's a theory. It doesn't make total sense to me, but maybe we're getting a single kernel versus multiple kernel interaction that's actually a bug, that's just the failure mode is causing a race condition in the Ignite version that's not being hit with containers.
I have yeah I feel the same that there are going to be some risk condition.
It sounds like a timing issue, right? Like basically we're getting lucky.
yeah
Container.
or something like when when the VM starting for a while, or some commands of I mean some sequence, because WKS controller did a lot of commands, right? Some state of the VM might change to be, I don't know, ready to do something.
Yeah.
But before that, with when it like a French created, or I don't know. But we never tried rebooting the VM. So I like your theory. I mean, yeah, it's really interesting to.
Yeah.
Yeah, really makes sense.
Because not everything like in sysctls with the network namespace is completely isolated. So
because I actually saw some network related error. I mean, but
okay.
I don't understand. I can't relate that to this behavior, because but so yeah, it's
It also could be that containers don't normally have multiple interfaces, but our VMs might. No, I think we only have a single interface on the Ignite
yeah,
VMs.
we have only Ethernet ETH4 there, and
All right.
one
Well, we'll have
and
to think about it more, and look. The only logs that I haven't closely looked at are the ones that occur on the host right before the pod gets evicted. So, oh, I have read those. They just stop at a random point because the node becomes not ready for some other reason. So we probably
yeah.
need to look at like the kubelet logs on node 0 when that happens.
But I read that. I didn't see anything useful. I
The
have a
trick
ton of
is,
that lost. But
yeah,
if if you want some of my, I can share that. I had a lot of it.
yeah.
Um,
Okay, cool. Well, let's
uh,
move on to
okay.
the mount code. So we can pull this PR up.
I think I kind of know what you're talking about. There is a mount type in like the Docker code, and I think that's what you're talking about in the comment, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how to bring it into, I guess it'd be client.go.
Which one was this?
Support arbitrary mount options.
Right.
And then all the way at the bottom, you got a comment. Oh, right there. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you see the complaint?
Yeah, I get the complaint. My big question was this mounts type and how to use that instead of binds. Like, I get why this doesn't work.
Yeah. Okay.
That makes sense.
So bind mount options, I believe I put this in here because, sorry. Okay. I put this in here because this is like already defined. So the reason is that you added mount options to the struct, right?
Yep.
And then basically the syntax, like if you look at creating a Docker container, I think yeah, this is fine. So like I can say go into a directory and then touch or let's say file goes to hello.txt, right? So I have file. Okay. And then basically I can, let's make a directory as well. It's like, we'll move hello text into the content directory. Okay. So if I run a container, right, and then I want to mount the content directory, I'll just use my present working directory as the root there, into, you know, my content inside the container, right? Not bash, just sh. So are we following so far?
Yeah. Definitely follow this, yeah.
Yeah, so here's the my content directory, and we can see that it's owned by 1000 on the host.
Okay.
And I have like write access to this mount.
Yeah.
So I can do something like this. And now if you look, I should not be able to add stuff to this, right? So if I go into my content, the looking at the mount table in this namespace, you can see it's read only, right? So the point I'm making here is that Docker has a string syntax, right, where you can append mount options.
Yeah.
See, so now it's read write, and I would be able to put stuff in that directory.
Okay.
But and basically this, even though you are going through the binds and you're building the flags, you are leaving off the option in the format.
Yeah.
So it'll always be read write.
Okay.
So one way to accomplish this is to create the proper string. The other way is to not use binds, but instead you could use mounts.
And that's what that's where I wanted to go to.
Yeah, because mounts, this struct is going to look very similar to our internal struct. Like, it'll basically be a very simple translation between the two.
So, all right. So if I go into like the code and you go into like vendor, Docker, API types, there's like a mount.go. Is that the mount that we're talking about?
Probably. Yeah.
Okay. And then so how do I take that mount and use it? And I'm guessing that'll be written in client.go. So I need to import mounts, or like the like github.com/docker/whatever.
Yes.
How do I?
So basically, here, let me get Ignite open. It's a little easier to trace here. Computer is a bit slow right now. Okay, common, I meant for client. Go inside of, this is not the file. Oh, that's weird. Why did it open this? I'm like in Kubernetes, sorry. Here. This is Ignite. That's why it was so slow. It's like all of Kubernetes there. All right. So in, what was it? We were looking at runtime, Docker, client Go.
Yeah.
So basically somewhere we're operating on, we're building binds. So here's the append loop that you modified. And so yeah, basically in container create, the type that it expects is a container config.
Okay.
And then I think there's container host config.
Okay.
So you can see container host config has this binds struct.
Yes.
But if I look at what is a container host config, you can see there's this binds, which is just a list of strings.
Yep.
And then there's, instead of that, I could pass, I remember seeing this somewhere, mounts.
Okay. That's where it is. Okay.
Right? And then you can see there's the type right here. So it's from another package called Docker API types mount, which I think you talked about, right? So
Yeah.
if you want to create one of these, you'll just need to do the import and then use that type directly.
Yeah.
And then you can see here in mount, there's options, and then there's this read-only flag.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I can use the functionality of this instead of trying to recreate it like I was doing before, kind of.
You need to translate the struct that we have in Ignite to mean whatever it should mean.
Okay.
Right, in this struct. So that when you pass it to the container create, Ignite knows how to tell Docker what to mount.
Okay. I think I get that.
Right,
So,
like we have our type in Ignite, and then there's the containerd mount type, and then there's the Docker mount type.
okay.
So translating to those two mount types is what enables that functionality. The reason why this exists is because before, when Docker was primarily like a CLI experience, and even in the API, basically this binds was the only way to do volume stuff, and it had its own syntax.
Mm-hmm.
But you can tell like we're squeezing multiple bits of information into this string, and it has to be parsed. And so for type safety, the mounts like structure was added, and you can see that, I mean, it's just much more rich.
Yeah.
In terms of what it supports. So
if you go back to the client.go file, are we there? No. So where's the string thing that I messed up? Oh, right here. Okay. So would I still be passing in something in there and reformatting this, but it would just be like a mount instead of a bind, or?
yeah, so instead of like binds here,
Yeah.
you could build the list of mounts. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so you could, make a slice of mount.mounts.
Okay.
Right. And then like iterate over the config binds and then build some mounts. And then put those into mounts inside of host config instead of binds.
Okay.
Right. So it would probably look something like, and then up here, instead of this, you would do,
Yep.
blah, blah, blah. And then like do your for loop with the same exact for loop, but then end with the proper type. And then just, pull out the stuff from this structure and put it into the right mount.
Okay. That makes sense. So I just got to figure, it's just translating.
And then, you would just get rid of the binds instead. Like you would stop using this.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I think
That is one way to do it.
Oh yeah.
But formatting the string is also a completely valid way to do this. So
I like your suggestion. It makes sense to me because the functionality's there.
yeah,
So might as well use it. It seems weird. Yeah, I see why you suggested it. So
yeah,
and that's why I didn't continue with doing the format string.
yeah.
I'd rather do it that way. I just didn't realize that there was a mount type in
Ye-
here. So
Yeah,
I
the
was
only
like,
reason I know that is just from like using Docker for back
yeah,
created.
I was looking at like if you go under like runtime Docker, there's like flag and then there's types.go, and I was looking at in there. There's like a bind type in types.go. That
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
I was thinking it'd be like a mount type too, but that's no.
yeah. The mount type is from the mount package.
Okay.
If you look here, right, this is the type,
Okay.
right? So I could click through to this, and then I could click through to that struct, and I could see where to import it from.
Okay.
It's part of the Docker API.
Yep.
And
Cool.
then, yeah, the only other comment is just I was pointing out that you did have a small bug with the format string, which is you put a list type here, and then you didn't add a place to interpolate it into the string.
Yeah.
So when your format string doesn't match the number of arguments, Go will complain and it will not compile.
How come my test passed and everything? Like, how can that work? Because the reason I didn't pick that up is because I was just using them like in like a VM in Google Cloud, and I just didn't have access to like an IDE at the time that I was doing it. But like, I
Maybe
could
it's
build
only
it.
Go vet that fails. Maybe it's not a compilation error. Yeah, I think that one's a linter error.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, anyway, but yeah, and then the type you can't like if you pass a list, you need to render it as a list.
Okay.
But then you needed to basically do like a string join on the list in order to get it to pop in here correctly.
Yeah. Because you can't have like what is it called? You have like unlimited number of options. Like like usually use like ellipses for it. What is it? So
Like
like
the like a spread
yeah,
operator,
yeah,
or gosh, what's the Go term for it? Because that's the JavaScript term. But
yeah. So you can
um,
like say like I don't know how many,
expansions, I think,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
list expansion. So
Yeah.
um, yeah,
Okay. Well, I think I'm going to go through and do the mount options. I get what I'm supposed to do now. That makes a lot more sense. Um,
cool.
so I'm gonna work on that today
Yeah,
probably
you
because
may
I
need
think
to read the docs a little bit on the mount type since it supports so many things
okay.
to figure out how to accurately translate the just a string of arbitrary options into it. But yeah, once you figure that part out, I imagine the structure of your patch is not really going to change, and it should
Yeah.
work. Yeah.
So there's a read the doc. Let me make sure I know where that is. So is that a
The documentation for the mount type.
what?
What are you looking for? Sorry.
The read the docs for the mount type for that's under like Docker, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would just use your editor if you can to just
Okay.
click through literally to the type,
Yeah.
right? So I can just go right here, right? And then you can look to see what these things literally
So
are.
I'm translating. So the translation again on I'm trying to translate this into what? Into what the?
This is
Sorry.
your target. This is what you're trying to translate to.
Translate to, and then okay, and
You need to
then
go from the Ignite internal struct to the Docker API version of mount.
okay. So where is the? Um, This is the Ignite. Wait, no. I'm going from Oh yeah, the ignite internal struct to the Docker. Okay, so I need to go to the Docker. Wait, what file is this? This is under. Okay.
API types mount under Docker.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the ignite struct is
Bind.
bind. Okay. Okay. So I'm translating from the. Okay, I get it. I believe I get it. So it's from. Let me take notes. Sorry. So I am translating from the. How do I think about this? It's the ignite. No, it's the doc. Which mount? It's from mount to bind or from bind to mount?
Ignite bind to Docker mount. Yeah.
Ignite bind to Docker mount. Thank you. I don't know why I can't get this straight, but that okay.
Yeah, I
Gotcha.
mean, just basically like this loop will change, right? From
Yeah.
config binds, which is a ignite type,
Yeah.
to mount.
Okay. Now I got the translation. So if I look at, let me see, where is okay, so there's so translate from bind to Docker mount. So I need to translate what host path is in Docker mount, right? Like if you're looking at like the bind type, there's host path. I
Yeah.
need to translate that to whatever that is in mount.
Yeah.
Same with
So here it would be the source field.
okay. So there's only outside of like there's only 3 fields in bind.
Yeah.
So
Now the tricky thing here is these things are very specific fields here. So these
yeah.
aren't just like an arbitrary string of options like the containerd one. So you may
Yeah.
need to filter through the list of options. I don't know how you did it. Are you passing like read write or something, or do you have like a read only flag?
I think it's a read only flag.
But yeah, just however you can get this to,
Okay.
because these options are not arbitrary, right? There's one specific to different functions. Volume options might. No, that's for volume driver stuff. Label,
Okay.
driver config. TempFS, yeah, this is very specific. Bind options. This is like more specific than Linux.
Okay.
Because when you do a mount, you just, like in Linux, you just pass -o and a bunch of crap. And it could be anything.
Do I want to add more fields to the bind struct?
No, you probably just want to look for the read-only option. So in the loop here, instead of doing you would be like, mounts, append mounts, and then you would want to like create your mount type.
Yeah.
With the this is the bind host path and target whatever that is, and then this list right here. You could like start it or just leave it to the 0 value, but then append to the list like if pseudocode basically, like if bind dot mount options contains read only,
Okay.
you could do like m dot read only
Equals true. Yeah.
is
Okay.
true, and that would probably be good enough, right? So you're supporting the arbitrary mount options for containerd.
Yeah.
Right, and then this will ship the patch for Docker.
Okay.
And like you could leave a to-do here that says, like edge cases for all arbitrary options not
For
handled in Docker. You know.
So how would, like, just out of curiosity, what kind of, like, how difficult would it be, since it's not like a one-to-one mapping of options from bind to mount? Like, what is that process of supporting the rest of the options? That
You
sounds
could adopt the Docker type and then translate that to the containerd type from Ignite.
okay.
So basically, like, use Docker's, like, the equivalent version of Docker's type in the Ignite API,
Okay.
and then translate it to containerd, which is more general.
Yep.
Or you could maintain a translation interface from the general type to the specific one, like this.
Okay.
So if you would like, you could basically copy Docker's type, and then instead this code would be a little bit simpler, and then you would have to do the string translations for containerd.
Gotcha.
And there may be a function, like, there's definitely some machinery somewhere in Docker's code that is doing that translation. Whether or not it's intended to be imported is not a question I know the answer to. Does that make sense to you, or can I say that in a more clear way?
Well, I mean, for now, I think I'm going to do just these three, like kind of how you have it written out.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe after that, and that's done, and I, get that submitted, we can have the conversation again. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I think if you did something like this for the Docker runtime, it would be beyond satisfactory. So
okay, cool. Yeah, that's what I will do then. I appreciate it. I just want to, I hate having PRs open for a long time. And so,
yeah.
like, I just have that itch of, like, I need to finish this and,
Yeah.
focus on it and get it done. So,
Yeah. If you wanted to go like the extra mile here, you could do something, like you could add additional, conditionals for the TempFS stuff, right?
yeah.
Like all of those things, you could start to build out that translation. But yeah,
Okay.
something along those lines. And this will be recorded, so you can watch again.
Oh yeah, that's true. But I will also, I need to, would I keep this original binds append, like, for that for binds too, or?
No, because you would switch from binds to mounts, right? So this
Okay.
would change,
Oh yeah.
to something like this.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you would change this to mounts.
Yeah.
So for every bind in config binds,
Yeah.
create a mount, and then if the config if the config bind mount options contains like read only, then on the mount set read only to true, right?
Yeah.
So you're starting to build a translation from this, what you're looping on, to a new object in a new list that's
Okay.
declared here. Then you take that list, and instead of it being binds, it's mounts, right?
Okay. That makes
And then in order to work with the type here, you just need to import it up here instead of bind. Because I think, we probably are using like container.bind or something in here.
How come I don't, is that, where is it imported in here? Like for bind?
The reason it's not imported is because the type for bind is not a formal type. It's a string.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you can see we're doing other Docker API type imports, like for container,
Yeah.
because we need the container package to do like a container host config, right?
Yeah.
So then you would just import mount, and then it would be mount.mount.
Okay.
Because if you look at the type of mounts, it's mount.mount. So the package name will be mount.
That makes sense.
So you would just go up here and do like that.
Yeah. Sounds about right. Okay. I appreciate your help. Yeah, definitely understand what to do now. and how to do it the way you suggest, as opposed to just using adding the string.
I'm noticing a duplicate import here as well. You could probably fix this. So,
Okay.
basically, there's an alias and then there's an unalias version.
Okay.
We probably shouldn't have both. That's just a nit. You didn't do that, obviously.
No.
It got in there somehow.
CONT. What exactly? I'm not familiar with that syntax.
Basically, this is saying instead of calling the package container, call it cont.
So would I want to someone's probably using cont, right?
Basically, yeah, like.
So I'd want to get rid of the non-alias one then, right?
Well, the both of these are used because in Go, all of your imports are always used.
Sure. So you have to refactor and make sure that stick to one of them.
Yes. Yeah. Basically, like in this file for the same import, cont and container are both being used. I didn't even know you could do that, actually. That's actually kind of amazing to me. Yeah, that's the exact same import. Like they're not different versions or anything like that. So
what would you prefer? I feel like not aliasing it's easier to read. Like cont doesn't really mean anything to someone.
That's cool with me. Yeah, just whatever you think. It's fine either way. So.
And that's the same thing with this one, meta. Meta is not a keyword; it's just an alias.
Yeah, but this is better probably than V1 Alpha 1 because if you were to change this version, and you would have to change other lines of code. So.
Okay.
Right, but this is common, like to not use the API version in the name of the thing. But,
okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I will do the mounts thing, and then I'll just get rid of I'll get rid of the cont and just.
Yeah, I mean, feel free to put that in another patch as well. You don't have to do it in the same one. So.
Okay, maybe I'll do that just to be cleaner, so it's easier to track what.
Yeah,
what I did.
mean, if you do that, like that's a really easy one to just merge immediately. So.
Yeah.
All
right. Well, hopefully I will have this done by the end of the day. Not that there's like a requirement or anything, but like I want to focus on it today. So.
Yeah, whatever keeps you learning and growing, and as long as it's enjoyable. So.
Oh yeah, it's definitely enjoyable. When I first started contributing, there's always that anxiety that I need to get it done like right away, and I realized that's not true.
No, it's definitely not true. In fact, it's not even a requirement to get it done.
Yeah, so now that I've kind of learned that and have accepted that, like, there's no one's rushing me to do this. Mm-hmm. Contributing's a lot funner.
Yeah. No,
you don't think that you have to do it because, like, you look at everybody else and they're contributing and blah blah blah, and you think, oh crap, I got to do like X amount of work in a certain amount of time. But like, either I contribute or no one does. So like, anything is better. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah. No, I mean it's. I think the posture of any fruitful open source community is that they'll likely be very welcoming of anybody who's willing to take aside, their free time or their learning hours, or to convince their employer, for them to learn how to contribute meaningfully to the project. Anybody who joins a community and raises their hand and says, that in my opinion should be welcomed and supported. So.
Yeah, the other thing, one last thing was we talked about, what was it, tidy in Docker and then just tidy in the Makefile and combining those. Is there any reason why we need both, and can we just consolidate to have tidy also like by default be in Docker?
That's cool with me. Yeah, you could switch it from tidy in Docker to tidy on host, right?
Okay.
And then you could just make tidy run in Docker.
Okay.
Right, and then when people do make tidy, it would run in Docker, and then
you have to explicitly say they want it to run on the host.
Yeah. But that would be fine.
Okay. Yeah, I remember when my first issue was trying to build this and doing tidy, and it caused all kinds of issues.
Yeah.
And you mentioned maybe that'd be an easier, cleaner way.
No, you are not the only person that is bit. It's bit like 4 people. So.
Okay, I made an issue for it, and someone was going to contribute. I'm not sure how to go about like making decisions and PR comments without like the maintainer like saying yes or no.
Yeah, I mean, we're not incredibly legalistic in this project. Thanks for your help. So.
All right. Well, I'm going to get going. So I appreciate your help, Lee.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, Chairman and I are always willing to be a resource. Thanks for committing so much time and following up on your own accord. Appreciate that so much.